In this lesson, we're going to talk about a wonderful etude by Fernando Sor. This is an etude in D major. It's probably most popularly known by its Segovia given title, Etude 6. The nature of this piece is it's a little bit, a little bit trickier than, say, an etude like the B minor Etude 5, or some of the simpler Carcassi etudes are like Carcassi 3 and 4. And because it requires a much more advanced left hand. And so the main thing in this etude to focus on is having something of what I like to call a spidery left hand. This goes along with the concept of walking the left hand fingers to the notes only when needed, and really to try to resist the temptation to play chords. You're going to recognize, especially if you've done some other kind of guitar playing, maybe some rock guitar playing or folk guitar playing, or even jazz, prior to your classical training, there'll be a temptation to, the left hand will recognize some of these chord shapes. So resisting the temptation to play chord shapes is a must here. So just giving an example here, the opening phrase right away, we have that second measure is kind of tough because, of course, we have the D major configuration in the left hand, which involves the fourth finger on the fifth string. And so this is any piece in D major really is usually a great opportunity to work on the fourth finger of the left hand and keeping it curled and on its tip. So once again, I'll play those first two measures, and I want you to watch the movement of my left hand fourth finger. And I slowed that down a little bit just to make sure that my placement as I'm practicing it is true. That in fact, that as I come down here, walk the fourth finger down only at the moment when it's needed. I try not to place that whole D major chord at once at the beginning of the measure. Because once you're there, if all four of those fingers in that chord shape are not perfect, then you're kind of stuck with it and for the rest of the measure. Whereas when you walk your left hand fingers, you can make adjustments while you're playing, and that's a very important thing for performance. Let me see, we can find another example here later on in the piece. This second chord will, again, be recognizable kinesthetically to your left hand as an A minor chord shape. But it's a good opportunity here to really just walk 1, 2, 3, only at the moment when they're needed, as each of the eighth notes arrive. And if you find that that's difficult to do at first, all you have to do is slow it down. Slow practice is always one of the things for me that really helps me conquer a lot of difficult passages, and it will for you too. So you just have to train the left hand. 1, 2, 3. Same thing here, 1, 3, 4, rather than this. That's something that will be tempting to put all three fingers down at the same time, but it's not necessary, and in fact, with a little bit of practice, it's much easier to walk the fingers. In the final phrase, we get some 16th notes for the first time here. Now, that can be a tricky passage to navigate, and that is a passage where, again, I will use a breakdown method. In other words, at each segment of that that involves a 16th note, I like to give myself a breather. basically, something like this. Just so that I can kind of clear my mind and really be able to see what I need to do next without actually having the pressure of playing it right away. And then maybe I'll add another note or two. And then when that feels comfortable, then I'll add just the next 3 fast notes, those 2 sixteenths and then that shift. That second group of 16th notes is really quite tricky. I like to actually use, rather than some of the printed editions, you'll find that the F sharp and E, you'll find them printed on the second string. I like to actually just use them on the first string, 3, 0, and then 2 on the second string, like this. Like that. And again, when I'm practicing it, I just stop after, maybe add a couple notes. And then, and then just do a quick analysis of how good it felt in my hands. Again, whenever you can, try to make your left hand feel as light as possible. This is a good etude to remind yourself to be as light with the left hand as you can be. Try not to press too hard on the strings. As the pieces get harder, there's always that feeling that you want to press a little bit harder or flex. As the pieces get more difficult, in fact, use your practice techniques of breaking down, breakdowns, adding a note, and such, and slow practice to continue to cultivate the feeling of very light, easy playing.